I'm BrianVee, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Jason Wright. Jason is a marketing automation expert. He's the founder and CEO of Intentionally Inspirational. He's a consultant, author, entrepreneur, and digital marketing architect. Today, I want to find out from Jason, how does someone market? How do we advertise if we have a business or we're thinking of starting a business? How do we tell people about our product or the service that we have? And how do we make this less overwhelming, especially if we're on a budget? Join me in my conversation today with Jason Wright. I'm BrianVee, and this is Why We Work. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Jason Wright. Good evening, young man.
Hey, what's going on? How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for doing this. You and I were just talking that we were going to do it a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, but our schedules got twisted. But here we are, and I thank you for coming. And could you give us a little introduction about yourself, just a little bit, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. Where should I begin? I am
Not
a
not too far back, because I'll bring you back.
okay, sounds good. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built everything I've got from the old trial and error. Lots of error there, but I'm a really stubborn guy in pursuing what's important to me. So, from a really high level, that's where I'm at. Been in this business a little over 5 years, and had to jump from corporate America twice to make it happen.
Jason, bring us back. What was even before corporate America? What was
Sure.
your very first job, maybe as a teen, maybe unofficial, maybe didn't even make a dollar, but the first thing that started you in the world of work?
Yeah, I feel like I should answer this or speak to this extremely loudly, hoping that my 14-year-old son across the hall will hear me.
Here, I'll take my
So,
head out. My kids can hear too.
so I
Kids.
was, I was 14, and life back then, I guess it would have been in the early 90s, was all about baseball, a little bit of basketball, and big time fishing for me. Okay?
Yeah.
We could walk four minutes to a pond. My buddies and I would fish, and we could ride our bikes to five or six more. So we fished all the time, pretty much year round when we could. And at a certain point, my mom said, "Hey, you have enough new lures and enough tackle. I'm not buying you anymore."
Mhm.
I'm like, "Unacceptable,
Oh
mom. The
no.
new stuff comes out in spring." Like, she's like, "What's wrong with your current stuff?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"It's not really you're asking the wrong questions." So she said, "Here's an idea. If you want more, you can pay for it." I was like, "Okay." So at 14, my income was like a birthday and Christmas, cards from the aunts and the grandmas and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, "All right." So I had three neighbors. We lived in a cul-de-sac that always had just raggedy lawns. They just never mowed on time, just looked really
Yeah.
rough. So I jumped on the family lawn tractor and I said, "Hey, what if I take care of it for you?" I knew these people. Once a week I'll mow it, 25 bucks a week. And they all said yes. So right away at 14, 75 bucks a week, had no bills, all of it went towards fishing tackle.
Nice.
So I did that, and then fall came, and then like the next spring, so I did the mowing thing then as well. But then I also went and got a job at a golf course, and I worked somewhere else also. So as soon as I tasted that first dollar, I was like, "Yeah, there's something really really cool about this. It feels right
S-
to me."
See, if I was your kid or my kid and I was listening in the back room, I'll say, "Yeah, but Dad, why don't you just get Auntie so and so or Grandma to just to put more money in the cards? Then I won't need to get the job.
Yep.
That's a source of income." But that's great.
Yep.
I mean, starting at 14, and that's the point, right? The motivation, you had it, you wanted something, you had to get it. You realize once you had a taste of it, there's something to it. So where did that start leading in your path? Were you content with mowing lawns for a bit? You worked at a golf course as well. Was there something, are you figuring out as well at that time? Oh, I can pick and choose, or I can try for different things.
Yeah, so at that time, I was obviously still a student. I started getting more and more serious about basketball. So my life really became school and basketball up until high school ended, right? When high school ended, it's like, hey, it's time to go get a job because I have nothing to do between, high school and college. So I started another landscaping business, which I grew and had for 7 years. But between 14 and then, I really didn't have the time or the opportunity that much. So it was more focused on school and sports. But after high school, for sure, it was prevalent.
So in between high school and college, as you mentioned, what were you thinking for college? What were you thinking, starting to think for your career?
I never liked that word. The thought of having to pick a path and go down it and work for somebody never made sense to me.
Yeah.
My
Even in high
parents,
school. Even in high
yeah, I
school.
mean, my parents, and so I knew a few entrepreneurs growing up. You know, they were older than me, and guys and gals that had control over their time, and that was the big appeal for me. But everybody who I spoke to that I respected, that I knew in my family, no, you got to get a degree. You got to get a degree. You have no
Hmm.
choice, basically. So they were worker bees and conditioned that that's the path to success. So I didn't really push it real hard until I started getting in school, and I was like, do I really want to do this? I can't see myself doing this. I was
Hmm.
going after computer science first, or actually, sorry, computer programming. And I was like, I hate this. Like,
I did the same thing.
and I can remember looking around this class, and I was kind of doing one of these, and I just got up and walked out. And I told my mom, I said, hey, this is going to bother you, but I have to drop all these I hate this shit. Like, I really, really hate it.
I did the
Like,
same thing.
it makes me want to cry. It's like they're speaking a different language that I don't want to learn. So
How
I
about
made a
this,
little,
Jason? The university I went to, there was 1996, and
yep.
they gave us all laptops, which was the first school in like the world. It's like what it was really sure. And I'm like computer science because that's what I think I'm supposed
Yeah.
to be doing. And I literally was sitting there with this new laptop. I had no idea what to do with it. I mean, I had some experience with a computer and typing class in
Yeah.
high school, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what am I doing here? They're like talking ones and O's and binary
Yeah.
code, and and I didn't walk out of that class then. I just didn't go to the next one.
Yeah.
I dropped it.
No,
Did
I understand, man.
poorly with that. Yes.
Yeah. And, so then I transitioned to organizational leadership and supervision, and there was pieces about that made sense. I was like, okay, talking to people is very, very natural to me and something I'm very, very good at. So working with people is going to be important to me.
So
Do I
that's where
want
you
to?
switch your classes.
Yeah. So I basically switched career paths. I was
Yep.
like, some of these transfers, some don't, but I have to do something, right?
Yep.
So they said, you can do leadership or sales or HR. And I was like, I have an interest in all of those things to some degree, but I don't need to figure it all out. So I can remember I was a 5.5 year undergrad. Like, I was just dragging my feet to graduate because business started to get very busy.
I think I beat you, but
Did you? And
so
I
horrible.
remember getting to the point where I was like, I either have to quit
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
or I have to double the size of my business and get a second crew because I can't do both anymore. And I
So you
remember
had your
talking,
business going at the same time.
oh
Your
yeah. So other people
landscape.
went and partied, and all I did is work and
Nice.
school.
I didn't do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd been doing it 7 years, and I had that nice business going and had chemicals and landscaping and lawns and different stuff. And I can remember going, I got to pick one. And like everybody I spoke to was like, you have to let the business go. And I don't know why. I was like, okay. And I
Mm,
remember thinking, this feels so wrong and so dirty.
yeah.
I remember sending out this letter.
What was the
Hey, effective,
reason? What was the reasoning exactly, or a couple of the reasons that people were telling you to stop? Just
because all these were
curious.
career minded folks. They
Yeah.
didn't understand entrepreneurship. It wasn't sustainable in their eyes, you know? And landscaping is weather dependent, and there is droughts and things that can happen. But if you diversify enough, there's plenty to do for sure.
On the flip side, it's a good opportunity to have something on the side with something else that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember sending out the letter, and it was like, hey, effective immediately, we're done. It's not you, it's everybody. I'm pursuing my degree. And it was gone. Like in a blink of an eye, I was just over with. And I went into corporate America for 7 years. And I was like, I see how people advance in companies. I have no interest in this game. I've never been a follower. I'm not going to start now. I'm not going to get my nose even a little bit brown. I have no interest. I have no interest in the game. So I jumped around kind of between HR and sales and some different companies. And finally, I was just like, I've got to get out of here. Like, this has got to
How
end.
was that? You said 7 years. How was it a grind day in and day out? Like just
No, I mean there was positions I enjoyed,
okay.
but my problem was I get bored quickly,
Hmm.
especially when I don't have the creative freedom. And I didn't realize it at the time, but creative freedom for me about owning my process and my direction is like my life force. If I lose that, I'm dead inside. I didn't understand that at the time, but as soon as I made that connection and looked back, I go, now I know what's going on with me.
Hmm.
So But there was definitely roles and people, that I enjoyed for a while and people I enjoyed working with. But when I would see other people, have freedom who were, doing things wrong or doing things behind people's back, I started realizing there's a lot of successful people around me. They're terrible human beings. I don't want to be a part of this ecosystem anymore. No interest.
Yeah.
So
So when did you decide within that period of time that you needed to make the change, and how was that transition out of corporate America?
that was really, really bad, actually. But I was working for this family-owned company, which I won't name, but the owner had made really good money for himself. He had a company worth about 300 million a year, started it from nothing, which is very respectable, right? The guy can
Mm-hmm.
do what he wants, but he wasn't a very good person. And it really bothered me that I would see examples of that all the time. So finally I said, you know what, if this guy can make 300 million a year, surely I can make enough just to keep the water hot and the lights on at least some of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I just want a little control over my time. I'm not asking for anything crazy. So then I started saying, you know what, I'm a smart guy. Like, I can do this. But the hard part was, how do I sell this to my wife? Right. At the time I was making $80,000 a year. I
The
had
biggest, the
insurance.
biggest sale in life. How to sell it to my wife.
Yeah, and it was weird because the out that I used was these neighborhood magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And you've probably heard of them, but the opportunity was you start a neighborhood magazine and you get advertisers and you make a percent of their revenue and that type of thing. And I didn't really like the idea, but it was like, this is my ticket out. And I was able to sell her on it, and she got excited and I got excited. And surprisingly, when I turned in my notice and told them why, they were like, "Oh, we respect that. We're entrepreneurs. We'll even give you benefits for another month. Good luck." So I was like,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. I'll take that.
So the bad decision one was I made a huge leap and I hadn't even made a cent with the new opportunity. Huge mistake. At the time, I thought, oh, this is
Mm-hmm.
what real entrepreneurs do. Really risky, really stupid. Mistake number two was the next day I went and bought a brand new Infinity with no job. Oops.
Car payments. You bought car
Yeah.
payments.
Yeah. And I thought I had 6 months of savings. In reality, it was more like two. So within about 2.5 months, I was like, oh boy, now
Do you
what?
still have that
So
infinity?
no, 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 no. I do not. But it was, it was a really, and I even had neighbors like, no, you can't do this. And I remember a certain guy, you can't do this. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't? I got sick of people telling me what I couldn't do.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I tried a business and I lost a ton of money. So if I failed, you will too. And I'm like, we're nothing alike. So anyway, that guy never asks me how business is going now. People who used to want to know all the time never ask me those questions, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that first leap was rough. Did not go well. Uh, but I'm glad. I actually wish it was worse. I'm glad for the pain because that gives you perspective, and everything that I do and I teach is from a place of experience and never theory. So that's very, very important.
So obviously this is what gave you some traction to realize what would be best for you. So where did this start to lead you, and where are you today?
Yeah. So the next piece of that story was I had to beg an aunt. I said, "Hey, I'm completely screwed. Can't buy groceries. Can't pay bills. Can you help us buy food for a few months?"
Mm-hmm.
And she agreed. And I said, I finally realized I have to go back to corporate America. I have to, because I literally can't take care of my family. But I'm not going to stop spending every spare minute building my own company on the side.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember waking up out of a dead sleep one night and I said, intentionally inspirational. I don't know what that means, but it's going to change my life. And I started blogging, encouraging other people to quit the 9 to 5 and build their dream business. But I hadn't done so myself. So I'm not quite sure what I was thinking there yet. But eventually, I started learning some digital marketing strategies and techniques to get my message out there. And I started seeing a demand for the same stuff I had learned on Upwork. So I would make a little money here and there.
Can
And
you
then
define
eventually,
Upwork? Can you define Upwork?
yeah, so Upwork is the world's largest freelance marketplace.
Okay.
So it's a place that people can go and find somebody to do a wide variety of tasks. It
Is
could
it
be,
similar to Fiverr, I guess, nowadays, but
yeah,
maybe a different sort of level,
yep.
level, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Upwork's going to be the biggest dog on the block, but Fiverr and Upwork are direct competitors for sure.
Okay.
Yep. So
So
I started, go ahead.
so the idea of you getting into this marketing, how much experience did you gain from your work in corporate America? Or was this
Zero.
kind of new to you as well?
Yeah, I was all self-taught. I had no background in it at all. But what I really figured out is it was really broad at first. It was like copywriting and stuff like that. And then it was more platform specific. And then I kind of figured out some stuff I didn't like. But then once I figured out the way my mind works naturally with like back end marketing automation is not normal. It's very easy for me to take a bunch of different things in my head and cleanly draw it out. And once I started to realize I kind of had a gift for this, and the ability to speak in a language people understand, I was like, I might be onto something here. So
Hmm.
if we fast forward today, I focus on strategy and architecture, specifically with Active Campaign and Clickfunnels and Zapier. And that's a big piece of the business, but there's other things around that as well: marketing
What
strategy,
was that you
coaching.
said? Zapier?
Zapier. Yep.
What would that be?
So Zapier is a program that allows you to integrate different apps or different programs without using any coding. So since
Okay.
I don't code, it allows me to connect, um, one of 2,000 different apps together. It's kind of like through an API, but it's kind of the hard work's done for you.
An
So
API is a what? Sorry.
so an API is I don't know what it stands for, but
Okay.
I know what it does. So like if you have an API between like ClickFunnels and Active Campaign, it's a two-way communication channel between those two softwares. So maybe in one platform, first name and email transfer to the other, something like that.
So could you explain what you're doing in really layman terms? You said you're good at explaining, so I'm trust that you'll
Sure.
be able to do it.
Yep.
So if I'm a company coming to you, what will you be able to do for me?
Yep.
And
So
me being at ground zero of marketing and advertising and knowing how to best promote myself.
sure. So I really help people grow their email list, all right, engage their potential future and current customers, and make more sales. That's the
Mhm.
real basic view of it all.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to help you with as a company is say, where are you now? Where do you want to go? And I'm going to help you talk through the foundational strategies you need to start working towards that place.
When you are approached by a company, a small business person, are you finding a lot of holes in their plans, or they have a good foundation, or they're really just ready to go and they just need some of your insight?
Yeah, most people are really in the same place. So it's interesting because some people have no business at all, right? They have an idea. Some people have $5 million a year businesses, and most are somewhere in between. Um, Most people have almost nothing set up, and there's always this unbelievable amount of shame around that. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed to tell you this." I'm like, "Let me guess, let me guess." And so it's almost everybody, which is it's really interesting. But people are very shameful, and they say, "I know I should be doing this, right? But I haven't done it yet." And they try to justify it. I'm like, "I don't care. It's fine." And I tell them, "You're normal. Everybody says this to
Why
me,
do you
so
think
don't
they
feel
feel
bad."
what do you think, why do you think they feel shame? What do you think? Is that like comparing? Is it knowing they're being a little lackadaisical? What would the reason be for the shame?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think of like email marketing, which is the back end of the sales funnel, right? That's the part that nobody really sees, but that's the most powerful. That's the most important piece. I think a lot of people know it's important, but they don't understand it and they don't take the time to understand it, even though they know it's really important. It's kind of like eating right and exercising, that type of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know I should eat right, but I'd rather drink a keg of beer every single day because it's more fun. I mean, it's the same type of guilty pleasure, do what's working, ignore what you should be doing type of thing. So that's what I think it is.
Then with their guilty pleasures in the back of their mind, or you know being a little bit lazy in what they know they should do, are they kind of a little bit dumping it on you, hoping that you'll be their savior of sorts and fix everything and do everything, even though they know they can lift some of the weight themselves?
It depends on the personality. So it
Yeah.
varies greatly. Some people are, they're like, I just need strategy, and you can either help me build the stuff or you can tell me what I need built, and I can do it that way. And then there's other people that are like, not only do I need help with my marketing, I need a therapist and some other things going on as well. And you're like, whoa,
That's that
whoa.
way. I'm with you.
Yeah.
What about what you do? I mean, COVID kind of throws some, maybe even it's good for you, I'm not sure, but what takes up a week for you? What do you do in your work for people who might be interested in getting in this line of work?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So people getting in this line of work, yeah, it's a good question. So COVID didn't really affect my business because I was already set up for it. So I've been online for with this business for a little over 5 years, been full time almost 3 years. So there was a period in March where things got quiet for
Mhm.
about 9 days. Like good clients that I'm working with currently, everybody just kind of disappeared. And I get it, right? Everybody's like, what happens next? Very
Uncertainty.
disruptive, but business just picked right back up as normal. And then in late August, it was there was a little quiet period, which I don't attribute to COVID or anything, but it's like right now it's crazy busy. So anybody looking to get in this, I recommend it strongly. I actually answered this question in a Facebook group today, but I think doing an online service for an entrepreneur or a small business is the easiest way to make money online in a legitimate, repeatable fashion.
Mhm.
Well, what is that service? There's a million options out there. Digital marketing as a whole is very broad. What I do is very specialized because it's very platform specific. So people will come to me and say, "Hey, you're the guy I go to with the active campaign." So I just pivoted to that point over time. It was never the plan. I just kept seeing the narrow opportunity that made sense for me, and it was in line with what I want to do. So if somebody's looking to do something like this, I would say start building an audience right away and start focusing on getting the best reviews you can everywhere. Reviews are absolutely huge for this stuff.
So what is it that what takes up your time through a week?
Yep.
What do you
I
do?
guess I didn't answer the question, did I?
It's around the
um,
same thing, but this you're fully answering it to tell people
yeah.
what they should do and what you do.
Yeah. So I've got a team of my own as well. So my week is going to be new business calls, sales, working with the team, getting the team paid, doing PR stuff. Getting myself on awesome shows like this one. Actually doing some of the work as well. Like I do the strategy, I do a lot of the architecture of the more specialized stuff as well. We've got another business, my wife and I as well, so that takes up time. And then being a husband and a father and sneaking away for some of my own time as well. But it stays busy, but I do kind of keep in control of my time, which is super important for me.
You mentioned this, and I was speaking to someone just the other day, actually, my last interview, and he has 6 children, but
Mm.
him and his wife are I have two. I'm like, what? I don't
Have
understand.
to.
He and his wife are working together, and as he mentioned, I'm like, don't pass over that. That's great. I mean, marriage can be tough, or on my end anyway, but wonderful and a challenge, and then also to work together. So I commend you and your wife because you started with the magazine business, and then
Yeah.
you're still working together. So she didn't dump you for the new
No.
business. She stuck with you, and you guys are sticking together. And I think
Yeah.
that is something, however it really looks in the day-to-day grind, is
Yeah.
very commendable for a couple to be working together and working on something that is good for your family and for the people you serve.
Absolutely. And we always tell people like we spend a lot of time together, We're both very strong, very direct personalities. So we always tell the other person how we're feeling,
Yeah.
whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, which I think is healthy. That's a whole nother show, but we don't hold anything back. But like above me now, there's a third floor in our house that has our other business where she's the main person in that. I'm the main person here. So I was like, hey, time for you to get out of here so I can get on this podcast. And when
Yeah.
this is over, you can go make noise again because we run industrial sewing machines, which make a lot of noise up there. And I'll go escape somewhere else downstairs. So it's good that we overlap where we need to, but we also know when it's time to do your own thing and get away. So it's that very careful balancing act, but for us it works.
So in your work with intentionally inspirational, what are some things you get these questions? What is a challenge that you have and what brings you some satisfaction in the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is, and I think this is anybody who's reputable in this space deals with, is trying to repair someone's trust who's been just burned alive by other marketing companies. One way that I try to get into that in the first call, and I can hear it and see it right away. So what I've got to do is I always jump on a video call like this. Most of the time, the new client does not. I don't need them to. I need them to see me. I don't need to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And I need them to walk away and say, I think this guy can help me and I believe what he's saying. Like that's super important. So I even tell people, hey, even if you don't hire me, I'm going to show you enough stuff or tell you enough stuff today that you're going to walk away a little bit better than I found you. So you'll at least have some direction. So
For
uh,
gaining
rip-
that trust and crossing that bridge, if they're coming to you, whether it's maybe a cold call, maybe you first approach them, but either way, building that trust and
yeah,
they're lacking that, what is it that they might be reluctant to give? Is it resources or more time or just the initial sale or the agreement?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things. It's money. I don't want to, like, I just talked to a very nice woman end of last week that just tried to work with somebody off Upwork that was top rated. She paid them off the platform, and then she never heard from them again. They disappeared, just took her money and ran. And has that ever happened to me? Yeah, I've been on the receiving end once, but otherwise, I will drive a far distance and find you. You don't want it to happen, but letting people know that pushing them towards reviews and that type of thing. But also, I don't really sell. So what's interesting about this business is I don't do any cold calls, don't do any cold outreach. Everybody comes to me. So they're already coming to me
Yeah.
knowing something about me or the brand, which helps.
Hmm.
And then what I try to do is I try to put them at ease and keep them at ease in that first call and simply say, hey, Brian, here's what we can do. Here's the cost. Here's kind of the scope. If you want to do it, let's roll. And if not, no problem. I don't have to go after anybody, which is great because then they're like, this guy's not overselling.
Yeah.
This guy's not driving me crazy.
Hmm.
And the less interested I seem, and it's not a game, but the more they want to work together.
Yeah.
It's that if he's acting this way, there must be a reason for it. So that whole demeanor and everything plays into that really nicely. Now,
And
there
they're
was a
putting,
time
go
I tell
ahead.
everything I could, but over time, it's slowly gone the other way.
So they're actually putting their faith in you, especially since you're not selling them,
Yeah.
by taking that first step. So then
Yep.
way you have to be gentle with them, caring, and provide that service that, especially if they went somewhere else and
Yep.
they got burned. So coming to you, they are going to be reluctant. And then it's in some way it just makes it easier for you because you're not trying to sell them. You're trying to help them.
Yeah.
In the end, it's a business, but through that
Yeah.
process, they can tell if you're trying to pull one over them. What is the
Yep.
satisfaction you're getting out of this then?
Satisfaction is, I even had it today on a new business call, is when that light bulb goes off in their eyes and they're like, oh, I get it. I get and it's like the way that I teach the customer journey and the way that I teach marketing. Like marketing is just a relationship. It's just a conversation. If I were your next door neighbor and you introduce yourself to me on moving day and I never see you again, and 6 months later, you ask me to borrow my table saw, and I'd probably be like, who are you? Right. If you wouldn't do that as a neighbor, why are you doing that as a business? Because that's exactly what you're doing to your list. Most people are, and they can't figure out why they don't make the sale. People don't know who the hell you are. So treat them like you would treat a neighbor that you actually cared about, and you might get better results. So when I start talking about things like that and simplifying it, they start going like, this is different, but it makes a lot of sense. And it gets people excited, and you can see them learn, and that's very satisfying because you're making their business in the world just a little bit better place.
That's a great way about being. What would you say is an ideal neighbor? Like a real next door, hey Bob, how you doing neighbor? Because I mean
Yeah.
that translates into all of life. I mean, I think of
Yeah.
the Rogers neighborhood, but what would you
Yeah.
say is an ideal neighbor? Because there's also pushing the boundary, right? Of being there too much or being overly kind, overly in someone else's business. But how do you can you pull that out or open that
Yeah.
up a little bit of being a good neighbor?
And this is just my opinion, but it's respecting boundaries. I'll wave if you look at me, but I don't need to run over and talk to you face to face every time I see you. And you don't need to do the same. If we're both mowing the grass and we're near each other and we want to talk, so be it. But you don't need to force it. Just let it kind of organically grow, but be courteous, but respect boundaries as well.
It's a great picture of to let people know the push and pull of business. And if you're always
Yep.
pulling or in some case pushing people away, you're not going to build that relationship, and it's definitely not going to work. Is there something over the last, you said 5 years and then 3 years full time, a skill that you had to develop that you didn't have? You mentioned when you first started, you were new to marketing and all of this was new, but is there a specific skill that you had to develop and maybe is still developing?
I'll say some skills that I had to, further develop. So I've always been a confident person, but from a selling position, I'm extremely confident now. Maybe almost borderlining on arrogant at times if people don't know me.
Hmm.
I'll say like with active campaign and ClickFunnels specifically, you're not going to find anybody better on earth than me. If you find them, let me know. I'd love to meet them, but I don't believe they exist. The way that my mind works with it, I've been doing it a long time. worked in hundreds of funnels. I'm very confident I know what I'm doing with that. So is everything I do perfect? No, but um, can I figure out anything that goes wrong and make things happen and come up with good strategies? Absolutely. So that confidence has grown quite a bit in the last few years, and it works really well. And I make a really hard effort to make sure I over deliver on what I'm selling as well.
Can you explain to me how the click funnel process works? You kind of gave a little bit of an idea when I asked before, but specifically click funneling, what happens in that process?
Yeah, so ClickFunnels is this software. You can use it to build landing pages, sales pages, cart pages, etc. That's kind of the front end of the sales funnel. Okay. ClickFunnels it's a big brand. A lot of people will come to me specifically for that software. And the way that I build a sales funnel, so like my big ticket project would be a custom sales funnel, is I would use ClickFunnels for the front end for all the user experience, active campaign on the back end for all the marketing
So
automation.
sorry, just so I can get it along the way. You're speaking of someone's web page, and then you're going to have some sort of click option, which is the click funnel.
So ClickFunnel is a brand. So like
Okay.
WordPress is a brand of
Okay.
websites.
Yeah.
ClickFunnels is a different software program, but you can essentially build website pages in the program ClickFunnels.
Okay. So you can incorporate your page into this
Yep.
program.
Yep. And it's an easy drop and drag type of builder, but there's very specific limitations and things you can do with it. And I've just used it so extensively
Mhm.
that I've become an expert in it and really comfortable and strong with it. So
How do you stay productive being busy, even knowing you have two businesses, one up above
yep.
you as well? How do you stay productive and keep moving and keep going and keep the grind up?
I'm an incredibly strongly motivated person intrinsically. I don't need external motivation to keep me going, which I know is not super normal. But my focus every day is simply this: make forward progress. So I've got a pad of paper to my right. I try to write my big five goals of the day. Sometimes I hit them, sometimes I don't. But as long as I know that I've made forward progress, still worth celebrating. So
That's how you keep going. Speaking of
yeah.
the pad of paper, what is an effective tool or something that you use that keeps you efficient in your work or
Yeah, so
keeps you on
for
track?
workflow management, I use Asana. Asana is kind of my choice there, and that's kind of a project level or full funnel build level type stuff. And then just on the simplest way, the satisfaction of crossing it off, just simple 5 point bullet point checklist that I just usually handwrite. So there's a million tools out there. You just have to know what works for you. Everybody's different.
Jason, thinking of you with the motivation to buy more fishing lure and getting into work, you didn't think of it so much at that time of like, oh, this is getting into work and
Yeah.
changing your career a couple of times. Do you have a tip for people who are just getting in, as you know, you want to yell to your kids in the background, or to people who, for whatever reasons, just need to change their career? Do you have a tip for those people just starting work?
So career work or entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship, career work, just getting out and being active.
Yeah. My advice would be if you have something you want to try, go for it, right? Life's short. The worst thing you can do is get to the end of it and have regrets because there's nothing you can do about that. If you're starting to build a business, my advice to everybody would be start on the side so you can already take care of your family and your means and build that business on the side. The worst thing you could do is do what I did. Just shut off everything that works for you, try to build something from scratch in 2 months. It's a horrible plan, absolutely horrible plan. So don't be Jason Wright from a few years
People
ago.
give that advice. People say,
Yeah.
follow your dream, follow your passion, and just let everything go and just do it. I'm like, you got to pay the bills.
Yep. And some people that give that advice, you learn about their story, you're like, oh, wait, they never had that struggle
Yeah.
because they had that income stream that they never told anybody about. So they never had to feel that pain or worry about it. But absolutely, you've got to take care of your family before you do anything else.
Speaking of family, Jason, and you said you guys have to learn to adjust. How do you make those work life choices to turn off work? Because you said you're using a lot of your waking moments focused on work. But how are you learning to turn that off and live life with your family or doing some things you like to do on your own?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I remember the day that I had this realization. I was like, surely it's got to be harder than this. You just have to take control of your time. So what I do is I use Calendly. I've got 7 calendars that I currently use. and I'm always cutting back my availability. New business calls Tuesdays and Thursdays only, and the times keep getting smaller. And what I found is the less available I am, the higher in demand I stay with people, and they actually respect that. Right? You can't get on a call with me for any reason before 10:30 in the morning because I like to sleep. I like to sleep in and stay up late. So by doing that, it actually works out better to my favor. I get stood up maybe once a year. It almost never happens. And I simply just said, this is when I'm available, whether you're a current client or not. And if you reach me outside of this, you're going to get radio silence. So just by taking that stand and saying, I'm going to be serious about owning my schedule, that changes your whole life.
Yeah, it reminds me. I watched the Prophet with Marcus Lemoynis. Is that, you ever see that show?
Yep.
And the process is usually the problem for people.
Yep.
And when they start making a product and then they try to go to the whims of their customer, and then they make a whole bunch of products or variations. And what you're saying is, especially in time, scale down
Yep.
and be efficient in what you're really able to do. And then that will help you make those work-life choices. Thinking
Absolutely.
back, Jason, I think I heard on an interview with you, but understanding that when we're younger, we don't always listen to advice. Is there advice that maybe someone gave you that you weren't ready to listen to, and then it's kind of come into fruition as you matured in your work?
Oh yeah. Um, Patience is part of it, but the bigger lesson is the time that it takes to get to where you want to go is completely out of your control and unknown. So if you go back to my first story, I thought I was going to recover my income of $80,000 in 2 months. Why 2 months? I have no idea. It doesn't even make sense looking back.
Arbitrary.
What I would tell myself now, older Jason to younger Jason, is hey, idiot, don't quit your job. Build this thing on the side slowly. And when you can replace that income, then you quit. It may be 6 months, it may be 16 years. You won't know till you get there. That patience piece to minimize unnecessary risk is absolutely huge. Right. And I'm not a patient person by nature. So that's a very difficult lesson for me to learn. But that's one thing that I would say for sure.
You mentioned some of the characters in corporate America that you saw how well they did, but their character was wanting or waning. Can
Yep.
you define what you would say? And obviously it's just an opinion, but character in a career, character in entrepreneurship, how important that you think it is for people to keep their integrity no matter what path they're choosing?
Yeah, I mean, we are who we are. So if you have integrity in corporate America, you should do the same thing as an entrepreneur. It's probably even more important as an entrepreneur because if you're doing it online, nothing ever goes away online. So if you screw people over, eventually it's going to come back to haunt you as it should. One piece of advice that I hear all the time that I hate is fake it till you make it. I've
Yeah.
never faked anything online until I made it. I remember closing clients saying, hey, I have no idea how to do what you're hiring me for, but you're the busy guy and I've got the time. So I'll put in the research and find out how, and I'll deliver this. I just want you to know. Okay, fine. So that's on the job training right there as an entrepreneur. You say, I don't have the skills yet, but I have the effort and I will find out and I'll get it done. So that's how you do it. You don't fake it till you make it. I can't stand that advice. It's horrible advice because eventually somebody's going to ask you questions that you can't answer. They're going to go,
Yeah.
you're a fraud. You should know that.
Yeah.
How do you not know that? So, and I see those
Humility. Yeah.
people all the time.
Yeah, you're right, and people could smell that coming a mile away. And if you're humble to say that you don't know, but you're willing to learn, and you have the time
Yep.
to offer your clients, then they would appreciate that more than the guy who comes in saying that they know it all.
Yep.
You have experience with university, switching your degree. Do you have an overall view of education now, a clear a view or a perspective, especially thinking of your kids or people, how it doesn't have to be formal, it could be informal. Not all people go to university. What is
Yeah.
your view of just education in the learning process for work?
I mean, I think learning is important. Depends on what you want to do. So if you want to, go to school for business, you're going to have a much more value starting a business and actually getting that firsthand experience building a business yourself.
Hmm.
I don't think the classroom can prepare you for what the real experience is like. And if you want to be a doctor, you'd better go to school. Otherwise, you're going to probably get the nickname the butcher or something similar. So it really depends on where you're trying to go with it. If one of my kids comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to I want to run a business, but I want to go to school and get a big expensive degree to do that. I'm going to be like, not on my dime, you're not. You know exactly what I'm going to say. Pull up a chair and start doing your thing and fire off questions to me as you have it, and we'll learn this thing together because that's the way to do it.
That's good. Dude, not many people would say that.
Yeah.
Like that's a tough pill to swallow, and it's a good lesson that, I mean, especially nowadays, seemingly nowadays, because I've only been alive nowadays, but the
Yeah.
idea of things are handed out for free, and for your kids or anyone else's kids to say, "Well, I'm going to go do this, and I want you to pay for it," and you're like, "Grab a chair."
Yeah. How about no? I have a master's degree, and for me personally, it's the biggest waste of money I've ever spent in my life. It did absolutely nothing for me.
Yeah,
It's just me. That's my experience. But
yeah,
people would even tell me sometimes. They'd say, "Well, for what you're trying to do, I just assume you're going to want too much money, so we're just going to pass." And I was like, "What is going on?" It was like I was better off with just the bachelor's, and I added the master's. It made things worse for me. So
yeah,
I'm not saying masters aren't valuable. I'm saying it
yeah.
depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, I have a similar experience. For intentionally inspirational, do you have a goal in particular, or you have an overarching goal for your family and the work that you're doing? Is there something that you can note?
Yeah, I mean, I want to, get as much reach as I can and keep impacting businesses. I do see the business pivoting yet again more towards that strategy and that coaching piece. And the reason why is there's one of me. Okay.
Yeah,
So I can impact more businesses at those levels than actually being the architect. I can train somebody how to do what I do from the architecture standpoint, but what's up here in my experience is unique to me. So I'm going to get a bigger impact doing that. But, part of what we do with our content is we encourage people at all phases of the process of entrepreneurship, right? We encourage them, we give them resources. So it's a unique company that blends motivation and marketing. And I'm proud of that. We've got 7 people on the team, so me and my wife and 5 others, and I'd love to just see it keep growing. And people, have opportunities down the road to make really good money remotely on their terms is what we're trying to do as well from our side.
speaking of your side and you, Jason, is there something that you would like people to understand that they may not understand about you, just to clarify in the work that you're doing so they can have a better appreciation of you in particular, or intentionally inspirational?
Um, I guess something I said earlier is anything I ever say, whether it's on a show like this or my own Facebook Live, my own podcast, or anywhere else, everything I talk about is from my own experience, and a lot of that comes from failure and rejection and screwing things up, and that's a great teacher, right?
Yeah.
I don't ever just throw stuff out there that I hear other people say, and it's just theory or untested stuff of my own. So what you see is what you get. Some people may like it, some people may not, but that's fine. That's your decision to choose from. But I do want people to know that the person they see talking and hear talking is authentic.
What about adversity, Jason? Is there something in your life that you have faced that was adverse to what you were hoping, and it's taught you the most, the biggest lesson, or you're still working with it and you're incorporating it in your motivation to work some adversity?
Yeah, I mean, I think adversity that I've faced and I'll always face are, people trying to tell me what I can and can't do. Not just as far as I actually got off a podcast one time. You'll get a smile out of this. And there was 2 guys, and I won't tell you the show. And one of the guys was like, "This is going to sound harsh, but there's no way that you'll be successful." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, there's
This is
too
the
many people.
podcast
Yeah.
host.
Yeah. We were off the air. And he said, there's just too many people that do what you do. You'll never be able to sustain this. And that was, 3 years ago. And it seems like the more you do, the more people are going to try to bring you down or project their own limiting beliefs on you, that type of thing. So I think that'll always exist. To be honest, I spend almost no time worrying about it, and I just keep chugging along. So I'm very resilient mentally in that way for sure.
It's funny you say that, because I would think the total opposite. I mean, you remind me of my football coach, right? It's just a guy that you can go up to, and you have a lot of knowledge in the field that you're in. Why
Yeah.
would someone say that you're not going to be successful? Right?
Maybe they were dealing with their own thing and they thought by telling me it'd make them feel better. I have no idea, but it just made me think of Frank Sinatra's saying, "The best revenge is massive success." So I was like, "You want to stop me? Good luck to you. I wouldn't bet against me if I were you, but do what you want to do, man."
Jason, I only have a couple questions for you. And thinking along the lines of adversity, thinking of listeners and the adversity that they're going through,
Yeah.
whether it's this year, a lot of people lost their jobs, people are uncertain about their future in work. Maybe
Yep.
like yourself, they were in some position and they were just spinning the wheels and they got to get out and
Yep.
they want to be successful, however big and small that may be for them. Do you have some words of encouragement for them?
Yeah, be very cautious of the company that you keep. So be careful who you tell your dreams to, right? Just because people are spouses or parents or siblings or neighbors or best friends doesn't mean they'll be supportive with your dreams, right? So be very, very careful of who you share those with. And all you need is one person to believe in you and one person close to you to say, yeah, you can do it, to really unleash that inner animal that we've all got. So that's some advice that I know somebody listening and watching is going, that's me right now. I've been there, right? I've been there. Once upon a time, my parents were like, what are you doing, man? This isn't going to work. And I was like, do you know who I am? Like, watch me. So it's funny now. The same people that did that never asked me about the business. Never. They want to talk about it. They want to talk about other stuff. So that'd be my advice.
I would think I had this question for you, but I don't even have to ask you. I'll just comment on it. So I think you would make this process for a small business, medium business, even larger business
Yeah,
wanting to promote themselves, you would make it less overwhelming for them. I think
absolutely.
hands down, I mean, I believe just by speaking and listening to you with the knowledge that you present to me and the confidence that you have about your work, that
Yeah.
you would make this and to build that trust, that bridge of trust, whether someone had a bad experience or they're getting into it for the first time. I believe that by speaking with you, people would find, oh, Jason Wright, intentionally inspirational. I got it.
Yep.
And yes, I can trust him and allow him to show me the way to success.
Yeah, and with a name like that, I mean, people don't hear that and go, "Ooh, that sounds shady." You know, well, because I had a fear for a while. It's like people are going to see that or hear that and go, "Digital marketing, that makes no sense." I've had multiple people say, "I'm ready to pay you," and I don't even know what you do, and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, what?" So it's worked out great, but you know, sometimes a name can be more powerful than you think and create a different impact than you think as well.
Well, how can we show more people who you are and where you are by contacting you, Jason? How can they get in touch with you?
Yep. So if you just go to intentionallyinspirational.com, that is our front porch, and it'll give you different avenues of where you may want to go next. So it's the simplest one for you.
One final question, Jason. Why do you work?
Why do I work? Because it makes me feel good, because it allows me to keep having control over my time and to have no cap on my income and make a big impact on other businesses as well.
Jason Wright, intentionally inspirational, founder and CEO. Thank you, sir, for your time. And I appreciate the work that you are doing.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It was fun.